Get your Bibles and your holy water ready. It's going to be a creepy one today. Welcome back to Screen Squad. I'm Kev. Today we're talking about the new Netflix hit, The Deliverance. And if you're a fan of the Exorcist films, Netflix's new horror movie, The Deliverance, should be on your watch list 110%. It may be hard to believe, but the project is based on real events that a family experienced over a decade ago. The Deliverance, which debuted on Netflix on August 30th, is directed by Academy Award nominee Lee Daniels, best known for Precious. This film marks a reunion for Daniels with actresses Andra Day and Monique, whom he previously directed in Billie Holiday and Precious. The cast also includes Glenn Close, Anjanu Ellis-Taylor, Kayla MacLachlan, and a few more. Daniels told the Hollywood Reporter that he hadn't heard about the Ammons story until after he made Precious. Once he did, he steered away from the movie for several reasons. He didn't want to do another story about abuse. This woman was beating her kids, or what defines as abuse, because she was hitting them. And two, he knows how he works. He's an open portal, and in quote, I know what I demand, and I know the spirit works through me, so what kind of spirits do I want on me? So I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. He admits that the story sat with him for a while. He never had seen the story through the lens of this African-American woman on screen. And he just felt that we're in such dark times, and I don't really think people know how dark a times we are in. The Deliverance is heavily inspired by the true story of Latoya Ammons. In November 2011, Ammons, her mother, and 3 children moved into a rental house on a quiet street of small one-story homes in the town of Gary, Indiana. That right there should be what everybody kind of like remembers. Because as soon as I heard Gary, Indiana, I'm like, there's only one really prolific story I know that came out of Gary, Indiana, and it has to do with a place called the Demon House. Ammons and her mother, Rosa Campbell, reported hearing footsteps going up the basement around midnight and the creak of the door opening between the basement and the kitchen. One night, Campbell recounted waking up to see a shadowy figure of a man pacing back and forth in her living room. When she got up to investigate, she discovered large wet boot prints on the floor. That wasn't the only strange thing happening in the house. I kind of want to say Stranger Things, because, Caleb McLaughlin. Over the next few months, the incidents grew worse. Ammons described witnessing her children levitating above their beds, being physically thrown out of the bathroom, getting injured by flying objects, and speaking in unnatural deep voices. Campbell recalled telling her daughter, "We need help, we need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with it." Ammons and Campbell contacted local churches, but most refused to even listen to their story. According to the Indy Star, one church official told the family that their house had spirits in it and suggested they clean the home with bleach and ammonia. And then, after doing that, to use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. Ammons also followed a clairvoyant's advice and set up an altar in her basement. She draped a white sheet over an end table, placed a white candle and a Mary, Joseph, and Jesus statue on it. She also opened a Bible to Psalms 91. She told the Indy Star that she and another person wore white t-shirts and white scarves around their heads while burning sage and sulfur throughout the house. Ammons said that there was no occurrences for 3 days, but then things took a very, very frightening turn. The family reported that demons possessed Ammons and her children. The children's eyes bulged out of their head, evil smiles appeared on their faces, and their voices deepened during these episodes. Now, Campbell told the Indy Star that the demons did not affect her because she was born with protection from evil. Okay, I don't necessarily know how that works. On April 19th, 2012, the family visited their family physician, and Ammons explained to the doctor the terrifying events that were occurring and what they were experiencing. The doctor told the Indy Star that the situation was bizarre adding 20 years, and he's never seen anything like that in his life. The doctor himself was scared when he walked into the room. In his medical notes, he wrote the words delusions of ghosts in home, hallucinations, history of ghosts at home, and delusional. During the visit, Campbell said that Ammons' son cursed the doctor in demonic voices. Now, I'm telling you right now, if I'm a doctor and a kid starts cursing me in a demonic voice, I'm just walking out the room. I'm sorry, you have someone else diagnose your children. Medical staff said the youngest boy was lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him. This was reported in a DCS file. Someone from the doctor's office called 911, prompting the arrival of 7 or 8 officers and several ambulances. Nobody could figure out exactly what was happening, the doctor said to the Indy Star, as police and emergency personnel took her sons to the Methodist Hospital campus in Gary, and someone contacted the Indiana Department of Child Services, DCS, to investigate Ammons for possible child abuse or neglect. The unidentified caller suggested Ammons might have a mental illness and the children were performing for their mother. The case was assigned to DCS Family Case Manager Valerie Washington, who conducted the initial investigation. In her intake officer's report, she noted that the hospital examined Ammons and her children and found them healthy and of sound mind. When Washington spoke with Ammons, the 7-year-old boy began growling with his teeth and his eyes rolled back into his head. He then locked his hands around his older brother's throat and refused to release him until the adults pried his hands open. Later that evening, the 7-year-old reportedly said, "It's time to die," in a deep voice to his older brother. "I will kill you," and that's just this is the true story I'm telling you first before I even get into the movie. This whole story was just so dark, and I feel so bad for everyone involved. But in an eerie turn of events, Washington's original DCS report recounts that the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backward up a wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet, never letting go of his grandmother's hand. Walker, the nurse at the time, corroborated this account. He walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there. There's no way he could have done that. These are all quotes now. And apparently when police later asked Washington if the boy had run up the wall as if performing an acrobatic trick, she answered no. According to the police report, Washington stated that the boy glided backward on the floor, wall, and ceiling. DCS eventually took emergency custody of the Ammons' 3 children without a court order. And on April 20th, 2012, a hospital chaplain contacted Reverend Michael Maginot, the priest at St. Stephen Martyr Parish in Merrillville, to perform an exorcism on Ammons' 9-year-old son. Maginot performed 3 major exorcisms on Ammons at his church and blessed her new home in Indianapolis. Afterward, he stated that he was convinced demons were tormenting the family and that there were ghosts in the house. Campbell and Ammons returned to Carolina Street to allow Washington to inspect the home's condition. Accompanied by 3 police officers, according to police records, one of the officers' audio recorders malfunctioned. The power light flashed to indicate the batteries were dying despite the officer inserting fresh batteries prior to this investigation. When another officer recorded audio and played it back later, he heard an unknown voice whisper. According to Lake County police records, one photo taken at the house appeared to have a cloudy white image resembling a face, while a second photo in green seemed to depict a female figure. Now, I should note that Ammons did regain custody of her children in November 2012 after moving to a new house and successfully meeting the objectives of the DCS case plan for her family. According to the Indy Star, a request for dismissal of wardship filed by the DCS in January of 2013, it was noted that Ammons and her children had made progress and participated in home-based therapy. The report also said that the family have not experienced any issues with demonic presences or spirits in their home in Indianapolis, and they are moving on from that dark point in their lives and just trying to forget all of it. The family continues to attend church regularly on Sunday, but the family is no longer fixated solely on religion to explain or cope with the children's behavior issues. Their haunted home was eventually purchased for $35,000, and the Courier Journal reported. The article said that the current tenant called the police to complain when reporters and photographers showed up and declined offers of money and interview requests. Now, what happened to the house? The house in Gary, Indiana. I'm sure if you are all paranormal fans, you've watched Ghost Adventures. You've seen the documentary that Zak Bagans made called Demon House. And after the Star article was published, the paranormal investigator Zak Bagans bought the house for $35,000 in 2014, filmed his documentary there about the events called Demon House, before having the home demolished in 2016. Now, if you watched his documentary Demon House, I watched it a few times. First time I ever watched it, it starts with the little tagline that what you're about to witness is cursed. And while watching it, even I heard some weird shit happening in my house. It was very heartfelt documentary about this location. Tons of death and just sadness surrounding the whole story and things that happened in the house. So now, obviously, the movie and the actual story share clear similarities, but are also very different in their respective ways. In my opinion, the cast of this movie did exceptionally well telling this very dark and sinister tale. From Andra Day's portrayal of Ebony, Glenn Close as her mother, Alberta, those two killed it. The dynamic, the fighting between the two. And it was crazy because, you could tell neither one of them really wanted to be fighting and arguing with each other. They were just tired of the situation. And this evil force that was in the house was pitting them against each other. It was doing that to everybody in the house, making them hate each other, just talk shit. And it made, in my opinion, the claims of abuse look more believable against Ebony, that she was hitting the kids, when in fact, on camera, you only ever see her slap her son once because he was being a punk. But that was it. Every other time that the kids had marks on them wasn't from her. At least not that they showed on camera. But Stranger Things alumni Caleb McLaughlin was absolutely incredible in this. I mean, yeah, he's had similar work in Stranger Things, but this was a different beast entirely. And it was so cool seeing him in a much more grown type of role. While, yeah, he's still playing a kid, and he was the oldest of the siblings, but he kind of held this story together, showing the perfect dynamic between a mother who can't keep her head on for more than a few days at a time, to a son who has just about had it and wants to remove himself from the household and from the situation. Demi Singleton, I feel, did a great job with the seemingly limited amount of time and importance she had up until the final act. She plays the sister, Shantae, and then the star of this whole thing, Anthony B. Jenkins, as little Andre. He was incredible, man. Seeing Kid take the role of someone being possessed and just overall manhandled in this movie by a unworldly presence. It was insane. And I don't typically like child actors, but he was so good to watch. So creepy, so innocent, and just overall enjoyable. Now, this movie wasn't 100% perfect. There were some questionable lines and some wonky acting at times, but the overall film was a great time. If you like these types of films, then this is right up your alley. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it and suggest you get to it and jump back in here and discuss with me in the comments. I look forward to hearing your takes on this movie. But coming up next, sometime later this week, sports are back, guys. It's time for football. I know I'm wearing a baseball jersey, but it's football time. I will hopefully be doing week-to-week accounts of all the games, score updates. Remember, just subscribe to the YouTube, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I will have updates on there all week starting tomorrow night. Thursday night football is back, baby. Go Bills. Honestly, go whoever you root for. I think it's going to be a very interesting year. But again, I'm Kev saying peace out until next time.